Hello, friends, and welcome to LoveTalk Network. I am Coach Kerri Brinkoeter in studio with my amazing, awesome, wonderful, beautiful, smart Cathy Endebrock. And today we are so excited about our conversation. We had a great interview with Craig Larson. Today we're talking about holiday finances. Craig is a gifted financial advisor, a fiduciary, and he's just very plain. He's very easy to understand. His heart is about education, and I love that about Craig. And we talked today about planning and managing for the holidays, our finances, because we want to be able to step into the holidays and step out of the holidays knowing that our finances are still in order and that we haven't overspent or overextended ourselves, and it absolutely can bring us more peace and more joy than overextending ourselves and being anxious and stressed about what those bills are going to look like come the month of January. So Cathy, hi. How are you?
I am doing really well. I love this principle that if we make a plan and we stick to that plan, we don't have to be anxious about our finances. We don't have to have a miserable January when bills start coming due. We can approach Christmas with just the joy of the season, keeping our eyes on Jesus, what the Christmas season is meant to be all about. And I love this upcoming interview, friends. You're going to love it. I love some of the ideas that we shared about how to actually step into Christmas with really unique gifting ideas that don't cost a lot of money, and how to have conversations, healthy conversations. If you're married, with your spouse, if you have children, with your children, or just if it's like self, what do you really need? What does this really mean? And I know a lot of times when we're not married, when we're single, that community that's around us, whether it's friends or family, so many times we have that super generous heart and things can get out of control very quickly. So we're going to talk about how to really have joy in making this plan, how to make a plan, and then how to stick to that plan. And then especially, oh my goodness, how to get ready for December 31st. There's so many amazing financial things that we're able to do if we just get that plan in place and get things done before December 31st hits, to maximize our tax position to get the most back next April.
It's so true. And if you're listening and you're like, goodness, I don't have hardly any money in savings. I have enough to get through if there's an emergency for 2 months. That's okay. Right? That is okay. And it's even more important to set a budget and stick to a budget. Cathy, um, you have three daughters. I have two children, daughter and a son, and I have a spender and a saver.
Yeah.
I know you have said in the past that you have a combination with your girls, some spenders, some savers. And I also think that sometimes we marry the person that is opposite us, right? And so these conversations about spending and saving are very important, and sticking to that budget. And so it's important to start with the conversation. Cathy, I didn't say this during our interview with Craig, um, but I'll say it here. Last year, 2025, my husband is in real estate, and 2025 was I'm sorry, 2024, last year, 2024 was a very weird year in Central Texas for the market. And so we found ourselves in a position at the end of the year where we were like, okay, Christmas needs to look different. And we had a very frank conversation with each other and our children. And, my husband and I said, look, we really don't honestly need anything. It's always nice to get a gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we honestly don't need anything. And so we told our kids, we're like, look, Daddy and I are not going to buy presents for each other this year. We're just letting you know that. And we're having a Christmas that is manageable. And so tell us some things that you need, right? And of course, college kids are like, I need gas money. So, um, So I loved that about last year. It looked a little bit different for us, but it was so special and so sweet. But the conversations had to happen early so that we could plan for that and not be stressed. And frankly, Cathy, it springboarded us into 2025, where we looked at our finances. Ashley made some wholesale changes in his business. And 2025 has been a very different year for so many reasons, in so many ways. And it's just been a blessing. So I think those conversations can be a springboard into something super positive for the next year.
Yeah, and I love your comment that if you go, "Oh, I just have very, very little. I don't really have that much money in savings. I don't know that this program is really for me." God specifically puts a special blessing in his word for those who have very little. And you can find that over in the New Testament in Luke chapter 16, verse 10. And God's word says this, Jesus himself says this: whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And this is God saying, hey, if I can trust you with the little you have, if you will steward the little you have, if you will keep your eyes on me and invest well and work well and manage well the little you have, I will trust you with much. And that is incredible. I mean, I think that we look at individuals who are multimillionaires and all of these things. We go, oh, that would be amazing. What if your whole goal in life was to have a ton of money so you could give it away? Like,
Oh,
how awesome would that be? That I want to make a lot of money, not so I can get a bunch of stuff, but so I can give it away, that I can change other people's lives, that I can help others who are struggling to help themselves. I mean, what a change in perception, that Christmas is about God giving and gifting us much and us taking his gift and making much of it. That gift of Jesus that he sent on that Christmas morning, that first Christmas morning. Because remember, Christmas is just celebrating the birth of our Savior Jesus Christ. Christmas is not celebrating all of the presents under the tree. The presents are merely representational of the gift that God gave us, and we want to be givers. God is a giving God, not a receiving God. He's a giving God, and I love that our lives and the little that we have can reflect that.
absolutely. Absolutely. And, Cathy, for you, having three daughters this year that are married, two this year, will be their first Christmas to steward their money in a way that honors God and honors their spouse as well. And so I'm sure those are fun conversations that they're having right now as they get ready for Christmas. What are some, as we talked to Craig, we started thinking about some creative ways to steward our money well. And one of our friends, I mentioned that one of our friends does something you need, something you want, and a book. Right. So we have a luxury item that we want, and then something we need, which might be gas money. And then, a book, some way to educate ourselves or bring joy. And I love that concept. A need, a want, and a book. So, or something educational. I think that's super fun. You said you had um, some friends that said, okay, we're only making gifts for each other. This is brilliant. This is brilliant. My mom did that one year. She made these acrostics of the kids' names and
Mhm.
wrote these beautiful, just affirming words for each letter of their name. And she framed it. She wrote it in beautiful calligraphy. And it was such a special gift that took a lot of time and effort. So special. So
And
we can think outside the box.
well, especially, for all of those of us who look at our phones and it says, oh, you've spent 5 hours on your phone today. You go, wow, how is that possible? Just think if we took some of that time and picked up a book and learned how to do like needlepoint or something. My oldest daughter, the favorite gift of the sisters that they have ever received, my oldest daughter just basically bought a sweatshirt and then I think it's called needlepoint. Needle pointed on one a little bird for our daughter Jay Bird, and then for the other, she put a picture of a lemon. I think it is. It's a yellow sweatshirt, and she needle pointed on a lemon. And I am forgetting why it's a picture of a lemon, but I know there's a reason behind it. I think it's a joke between the two of them,
That's
and
awesome.
they wear those sweatshirts all the time. And I mean, I can't imagine she spent more than $10 on those sweatshirts, but it's the time that she spent needle pointing in those beautiful little pictures that
Yes,
is by their sister's hand. I really think we can get so creative over Christmas, and we just think, gosh, God's gift, Jesus' gift to us is so much more than something that we're buying down at the local mall.
absolutely. Well, Cathy, why don't you introduce our guest today, Craig Larson of Larson Financial Services? He's our good friend, and we adore him.
He started in the financial services business after graduating from St. Olaf College in 1989 with a bachelor's degree in economics. So kind of fell in love with the financial side of things. For 7 years, he worked in insurance, then as an investment specialist and investment sales manager. He established Larson Financial Advisors in 1996 as an independent boutique firm to better meet the needs of his clients, so that he was not beholden to the investment industry or the insurance industry, but he could sell the best product for his clients that met their needs. I love that. And in 2011, he became a registered investment advisory firm and converted investment operations to a fee only fiduciary status to provide the best and most unbiased advice as possible. He has also worked as the board of directors for the Minneapolis Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. He has served on the Minneapolis chapter president of the Society for Financial Awareness, just promoting financial awareness among the community. He's given seminars and workshops at a number of organizations, including the FBI. I always want to ask him about that, and I always forget. Um, Craig relocated his family to Texas in 2016. He maintains an office still in both states. And for all of our Texas friends, you can actually meet Craig personally at your favorite coffee spot or head over to his Cedar Park office for a one-on-one visit. I just absolutely love him. He has clients from all over the nation. He is a trusted advisor. Eric and I personally transferred all of our investments over to him. Gosh, I think maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. And he has been fantastic because he not only is a trusted financial advisor, but he's become a friend and he's an educator. He loves educating his clients on what's happening with their money, how to ask the right questions, what options are out there for them to maximize and manage and enjoy their retirement.
Absolutely. Well, friends, when we return to Love Talk Network, you are going to hear our awesome interview with Craig Larson of Larson Financial Services. We'll be back with you right here on Love Talk right after this.
Well, welcome back, friends, to Love Talk Network. I'm Cathy Endebrock in studio with Coach Kerri Brinkoeter and our incredible guest, Craig Larson. Craig, it is great to have you with us today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're delighted
So,
to have you back on Love Talk Network, Craig. Listening friends, if you do not already know Craig Larson, of course, you heard us introduce him in the first segment, but he's been on Love Talk several times. So you can go back in our archives and find other episodes with our amazing friend and financial advisor, Craig Larson. Cathy?
yeah, thanks for that, Coach Kerri. I mean, we talk about this wonderful time of year that, Thanksgiving's behind us, Christmas is in front of us, and we hear Christmas music and we see the lights and everything is wonderful. And just Christmas is sweeping into our homes. And sometimes we get a little bit kind of distracted with the financial concerns, and the emotion of the season maybe doesn't carry us too far when we look at our bank account and go, how do we manage that? We look at our finances and we look forward, and we want to know how to finish well at the end of the year. So Craig, we thank you that you're going to be talking through this with us. Can you just answer this question for me, because I don't really think about having a financial plan heading into Christmas, but how can a good financial plan heading into Christmas help us to actually enjoy the season even more?
Well, I think the money issue creates a lot of stress, right? So I'm going to say the B word, budget. And everybody should have one. And so many people just kind of skate through their financial life and they never really do the planning. And you can imagine what happens, especially during Christmas season when there's some emotional purchases, you're trying to please people, you want to get them something special. And if you're not tracking all that, then carnage can happen. And then the credit card bills come in January and the spouses are fighting about, well, what happened here? How did this get so out of control? So you really need to be diligent about planning ahead and deciding, here's our overall budget for gifts or charitable giving, and here's what we're going to do for each person. So my wife and I have already had this conversation with the kids. Here's how much each kid is allotted for gifts. We're sticking to it. Here's how much the grandmas get. Here's how much goes to church. So you really want to map that out and then stay within budget, because if you don't have a plan, just wild things can happen.
I think that's the key. You can make a budget and you can sit down and really plan it all out. But both partners, or if you're single, you have to be committed to sticking to that budget, because it's not just a number. It's not just a wish. You have put pen to paper. And so do you have any tips, Craig, for actually sticking to the budget? Is prayer the main thing there?
Hey, that's always a great idea. Start with prayer and then keep that plan in front of you. It's like you said, I think that you can write it, but then following up with it, you have to view it periodically, go back to it, make sure you're sticking with it, have a kind of communication with the family, especially between spouses. And if you have kids, they can get pretty oriented towards the presents and wanting certain things. So sometimes a lecture about, hey, we're not going crazy this year, so don't get crazy with your expectations. That will all help.
I love it. Our kids put together a wish list, and we always joke because there's the kids that have like 4 things on the list and they're just outrageously expensive. And then there's the kids that have a list that extends 3 pages and everything on there is, kind of small things, but lots and lots of wants. And so I love that when we do budget and we make our list, it's actually kind of a fun thing because you get to see the character of the person in the process of the planning and how that comes out and how everyone approaches it differently. And I love that we can be so thankful and have so much gratitude for this process that maybe some of us look at it and go, ugh, I don't want to do that. That steals my joy. Well, gosh, just think it can actually add to the joy because you get to learn even more about one another and how you relate and how you look at life, and even analyzing how your wanter wants things. How's your wanter doing today? At Christmas, it always seems to kick in on overtime. It's like Elon Musk kind of batteries that never stop. Well, so we talk about making those financial plans, making those financial decisions. I love that you mentioned charitable giving as well, because that's something that is definitely a choice and definitely takes commitment. When you talk about all of this planning, what is your personal approach? You talked about kind of engaging with your wife, engaging with your kids, your financial planner that's helping everyone else as well. How do you manage all of that, manage the time, and actually make time to do all of this?
Well, my wife and I try to have a financial meeting once a month. And so and sometimes this just happens at random time. We're busy, so we don't have a lot of sit down like, hey, Saturday at 1, we're going to do this. It's randomly throughout the week sometimes, but you want to make sure that you have those spousal conversations. And we decided, well, what are we doing this year? Are we going to take a trip? Are we staying at home? We're empty nesters now, so all 3 kids are in college this same year, so they're kind of coming back, and we're talking about what do we want that to look like? What do we want to do? And so, part of that is the money aspect. How much are we going to spend on everybody? I think part of it too, I wanted to bring up is just the charitable aspect, because in a society that's so consumer based, and you've probably seen these videos on YouTube of the the spoiled child opening the gift at Christmas and it's not what they wanted. So they throw this horrible, embarrassing tantrum, right? And so I just think that's so pathetic. And we never wanted that to happen with our kids. So years ago, we started to try to talk to them about, hey, not everybody's blessed like we are. So you want to give back to the community. And we actually did a mission trip down to Mexico. And this was about a week before Christmas. And so the mission trip was about packing food baskets and gift baskets. And I remember my kids, first of all, it's Mexico, so the electricity doesn't work very well. The plumbing's not good. Things are kind of falling apart. So it was kind of a glimpse of like, oh, not everybody lives in a nice American house. And then it was, hey, why are we putting together food baskets? Well, these people don't have 3 meals a day. Sometimes they struggle to have one. We're going to help them have a really, really nice Christmas meal, right? And then the gift baskets were generally for the kids, and it wasn't toys. It was hats and mittens and socks, right? Well, why are we giving them hats and mittens? Well, you know what? They don't have heat. It's cold. And so I think that was a real wake-up call for the kids that, okay, this is not all about the presents. We're really blessed here to be able to get toys and extra luxury items and electronics and tech, but some people are just struggling with the basics. And that was a nice pivot to get some of the attention off just all the me gift getting kinds of things that can go through kids' minds.
It's a really, really great point. Practically, I have heard of families as they budget for Christmas saying, okay, kids, this year we're going to do one need, one want, and a book. And I think I love that. So do you have any, maybe like a list or some suggestions, priorities, as we take these steps to be financially prudent as we plan for Christmas? Is there something that you would specifically say, think about this, or maybe a percentage of our overall budget, or is that different for everyone? What are some practical things here, Craig?
Well, it's different for everybody. So it's hard to make kind of a generalization about it. I think it's certainly okay to talk with the family if things are tight.
Yeah.
If there's been a job loss or a layoff or something, hey, just be honest about that. Hey, Christmas is going to look a little bit different this year. And here's what we're going to do. And here's what that's going to look like. Open that up so you can create a proper expectation. And I love your idea that you mentioned about, we're going to get a luxury, a need, and a book. And so that is just a great way to foster an idea that, hey, it's not all just about entertainment and stuff. We want to learn some things. We want to teach you some things. And so ideas like that are fantastic.
I love my my hairdresser. She has a large family, and so last year I haven't sat down with her yet this year to find out if they're doing it again. They had a rule: you have to make whatever you give. You are not allowed to purchase anything for anyone. You have to make it. And so she's like, I learned how to make like real beef jerky, and I made beef jerky for everyone and put them in really cute little packs. And then she was telling me that her brother learned how to do some things, turning some wood, doing some things with woodworking, and made these precious little bowls off of an old tree that they had out in the back. And so it's interesting if you take something and you maybe take a twist on Christmas instead of doing the same old. All of a sudden now you're learning new things, you're having fun, and then you get to see everyone bring their gifts and talents to the table Christmas morning to see what they came up with and what they did. Maybe it's writing a special poetry for someone and having it framed. I think that is an incredible gift as well. Macy's does not hold the key for us this Christmas, friends. God has given us so many gifts and talents that we can press into to share with others. And one of the things that I think about, Craig, is when we talk about Christmas, that's December 25th. And, December 31st is only 6 days later. And a lot can happen in the month of December, where we also want to maybe take some steps to prepare for December 31st. Why would that be important for us?
Yeah, so there's a huge amount of year-end planning things that one would want to contemplate. One would be your portfolio and what's up and what's down. So when we talk about, let's talk about a concept of tax harvesting, right? If you've got things in your portfolio that are down, you can actually sell those. And we're talking about accounts that are joint account, trust, individual, not your Roth, not your IRA or 401k, but your taxable accounts. Sell the holdings that are down and generate a tax loss. So you're actually going to lock in the loss. That tax loss can be used to offset the tax on gains that you have, or you can take up to a $3,000 deduction if you're married on that. And if there's a lot of that, you can just keep carrying that forward over the years like a little bank account of tax deductions. So sometimes people miss that. If you sell something to take advantage of the tax loss, you got to wait a month before you can buy that same thing back. So just be aware there's a catch there. On the flip side, you probably have some things that are way up in the portfolio. And when you're thinking about that year-end charitable giving, most people just think, okay, well, I need to get the gift in by the 31st, which is true. And you're thinking about giving from a bank account, right? Well, if you think about giving appreciated assets, what can happen is you're going to still get that tax deduction for the value of the asset that you gift, but you're going to avoid the capital gain on that asset. Okay. So if you're planning a gift and you're thinking about giving cash, look at the portfolio, see if there's some appreciated stocks, mutual funds, ETFs in there. And how that would work is you contact the entity that you want to give to, your church or charity of whatever kind. Most of them have a brokerage account set up. So you just arrange to transfer so many shares over of that stock or fund, and then they'll give your giving receipt based on the value, and then you can avoid that capital gain. So there's a couple. Of course, there's some other hard deadlines like Roth conversions. So that takes some calculating and some forecasting and so forth. And you can't do a Roth conversion for this year on January 1st. That's got to be done by the 31st. Don't wait until the 31st. These custodians, they get busy with all these requests and they can't always process them. So I tell people, try to get all this figured out by the 20th and give yourself some processing time on them. And, we have a couple of months left. For most people, that's, 2 to 4 payrolls. And so you can also look at your contributions in your retirement plan this year. Do you have more margin to put away more in 401k, SEP IRA, simple IRA, through the employer? Make sure that you're maxing that out if you can.
I love that, because all of these things that you're talking about, average people like us, we're like, what? We have no idea. One of the things that it took Eric and I to learn the hard way is that if you want to manage your money, you want to manage your money well. And so it is so helpful to have individuals like you, financial advisors, who everything you do not only comes from a place of incredible education and experience about how the markets work and how to manage the finances, but you also have a heart to honor God. And so you're honest and trustworthy, and we just appreciate you so much. So getting a financial planner, if we're trying to make a plan and all of this sounds overwhelming, is December too late to reach out to a financial planner and say, hey, I actually have some money. I want to make some charitable gifts. This thing that you mentioned about giving stock so I wouldn't get capital gains. So instead of taking 10,000 out of my bank account, I can actually give stock worth that much. I can actually recognize that as a charitable contribution to a nonprofit, and yet not pay capital gains on that. So rather than cashing in your stock, paying capital gains and giving that money, you can actually just transfer that to another brokerage account. For individuals who want help with this, is December too late? Is that something that they go, I've missed the boat, I'll just put that off till January?
Well, I think, it's harder to have a big impact if you delay, but it's never too late to start doing something promising and helpful and profitable, right? So if they haven't done it and they're behind the 8 ball, they can still scramble and they can still make some difference. It may not be as big of a difference if they had started in January, but still there's, I don't know how many days we have here, 70 days left or something, or how many, 50 days
Let's
left.
see, November 29th to December 31st, 33 days.
Yeah, getting late. So if they're thinking about, hey, I better optimize, probably make that call sooner than later before it's too late.
Listening friends, you may hear in Craig Larson's voice that he's a different kind of financial advisor. And so, Craig, tell us, you have been in business and partnered with your clients for well over 3 decades, and you are all about implementing, monitoring, educating people on their financial decisions and choices. You are a true fiduciary. Can you explain to us what that is and how that is different from some of the other maybe bigger box advisors that are out there?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Fiduciary is a legal term, and it means that somebody's required to act in your best interest, right? In the client's best interest. Now, you'd hope that everybody would do that anyway, but fiduciary is a legal requirement for that. And so as a fiduciary, I'm required to act in the client's best interest. Not all firms are. If you're evaluating firms, you can actually read their disclosure document. It's called an ADV Part 2. And that will outline any potential conflicts of interest. And often a firm might have 1 or 2 small conflicts of interest. If you're reading an ADV Part 2 and it's many, many pages of conflicts of interest, that's, you want to be aware of that. And I think the big box Wall Street firms are kind of famous for that. They've got these super 400-page disclosure documents and nobody ever reads them. And they're just, you want to be aware that for some firms, somebody's going to have an incentive to put you in a program or offer something that gives them a higher compensation or helps them with some kind of qualification or bonus or trip. And so that can skew people. So you really want to find out how's the advisor compensated and how might that skew or be open. In our case, we don't get any soft dollars. So soft dollars are the money that an investment provider would pay a firm to kind of get on their A list, to get higher up on the hierarchy of offerings. And I don't have any of that. So it's just a whole lot easier to act as a fiduciary in that case.
So you're basically saying Fidelity is not going to give you and your wife a cruise for 2 if you invest a certain amount of our money with them every year?
That's right. Yeah, you don't get any of that kind of money. So it's a lot easier, but it is good to be aware of that. And people can just ask questions. If you're going in and interviewing an advisor, ask them.
Yes.
If your firm gets soft dollars, would there be any, incentive to offer one thing over another? What are the ties?
Yeah, those are great questions. And sometimes those are questions, I don't know, frankly, you're afraid to ask, which you shouldn't be. You should be empowered. It's your money. Well, it's God's money. God gave us everything. And we want to be good stewards of God's money. And to be a good steward of God's money, I think we need to have a high IQ for who we are investing our money with and how we are investing our money. And so ask a lot of questions. Even if you think it's a silly question, ask. Your advisor should not bat an eyelash to answer those questions. And that's for sure.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Coach Kerri, because Eric and I have had financial advisors in the past where they almost act like, why are you questioning what I'm doing? And one of the things that I love about you, Craig, and about Larson Financial Advisors is that you want to educate your clients. You want them not to feel anxious about their retirement accounts. You want them to actually enjoy retirement and enjoy the money that they have saved. Can you tell us, with all the individuals that you work with and individuals that come to you, what are the common mistakes that people tend to make in financial planning?
Well, I can sum that up in one category, and that's not having a comprehensive plan. And so, a comprehensive plan is going to cover all areas of wealth management. Sometimes people think, well, that's just my estate plan. Well, that's part of it. It's just my investments. Well, that's part of it. It's just my insurance. Well, that's part of it. Tax planning, right? And there's just a lot of things that can be potential trip ups where people can lose a lot of money. And one example is I have a client that he has a stamp collection that's worth almost $1.5 million. And somehow he came into the office and he was talking about it. And I'm like, well, you have that ridered on your homeowner's policy, right? And he didn't. Like, he just thought it was covered under contents. And I'm like, oh, no. They're going to cover about $5,000 of that. it's up to you to do the rest. So we got it all taken care of and fixed, but it's just sometimes little things like that. If you don't have a comprehensive plan and a checklist, you may have some vulnerabilities that you're just unaware of.
That's a great point. That's a great point. A comprehensive plan. And Craig, a comprehensive plan takes time to put together.
Yeah.
And so a person would come and meet you in your office and begin that process of not only interviewing you, but then putting together a comprehensive plan, which can take a while because you're really diving into all areas of life. So, Craig, new administration this year. What kind of insights do you have into what 2026 might hold after a year of this new administration? I know we are still at the point of this taping, we are still in a government shutdown. I am praying that by the time this program airs, maybe we will not be in a government shutdown. But what are some insights that you have as we embark upon 2026?
Well, I think it was Yogi Berra that famously said, predictions are hard, especially about the future. So I think it's hard to hazard a guess. And, some of the tariff things are going through the court system. There's just a lot of things that are very, very difficult to predict. So I think one needs to just stay up to date, stay nimble, be ready to adapt to changes. I think that there's things that may be administration dependent, and then there's other things that are just, it's the market and it's huge. It's way bigger than the administration. And one of the things that we're seeing is just in this large cap space that you'd think of S&P 500, right? Well, the S&P 500 right now is 50% of it is tech or tech related companies. And out of the 500 companies in the S&P, there's 10 companies that are worth 40% of it, right? So we're starting to see some things that are maybe a little bubblish in the market, a very high concentration of stocks, the valuations. You'll hear things about price to earnings ratios. That's a measurement of how expensive or how cheap stocks are. Stocks are among the most expensive that they've ever been. I think we're almost tied with some of the top 2 or 3 peaks of the last 100 years. And then margin debt is very high. And margin debt, a lot of people don't know, but in a brokerage account, you can actually borrow from the bank to leverage your stock portfolio to buy more stocks. And margin debt is approaching an all-time high. So none of these things, by the way, mean that 2026 has to be a disaster. This market could just continue motoring forward for a while. But I think we want to be aware that there's some risk signs that are now potential risks. They have not become kinetic. And so as an investor, you want to be aware that, hey, I should start thinking about a risk management plan. And whether it's stop losses or hedging or getting out based on trends, have something that can be a plan that can help you protect money when the market decides to go down, whether that's 2026 or 2028, 2030, who knows? We don't know that, but at least have a disaster plan in place. And that's going to be a little different for different investors too. If you're 30 years old, who cares? Buy the dip. And if the dip is 80%, keep buying the dip. But when you're 55 and retirement's kind of coming up in 5 or 10 years, if you take a 50% header in a portfolio, that's very difficult to recover from. So that's what I would just say. And that's a little vague because it wasn't necessarily 2026-ish, but let's say 2026 through 2029 is that's kind of the zone you want to watch.
Yeah, but it's prudent to think about risk and watch the markets. Our son is a finance major, and so he has a class this semester where he's invested, and I use that in air quotes, $50,000. And it's been fun to watch him manage this and really watch the market and really be studious about how he's managing this pretend $50,000. That's been fun conversations. Lots of learning going on, Craig. Lots of learning going on in your field.
I applaud it. That's great. I'm glad he's getting interested.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
So, Craig, one of the things that I'm interested in is at what point should someone start to make a financial plan? I mean, is it like, hey, when we're 18, we need to start investing in stocks, or hey, just a savings account? Is it when we get our first job that we now need to go and connect with a financial advisor? Those individuals that are most successful in building wealth for themselves, that are just average people like us, what do you find is kind of that average point or the best point where they actually seek out a financial advisor that they can trust, that they can put together an entire wealth management plan? Those individuals that are most successful, when do they start doing something like that?
Yeah, the sooner the better. I think, as a parent, you can try to instill values in your kids. One of my friends from college wrote a book called Share, Save, Spend. So, you're going to have some of the money that you save, some that you spend, and some that you share. What a great concept, right? And so those are good concepts to teach a kid. And then when they start earning money, encourage them to do just that. Hey, we're going to tithe on this portion of earnings that you made. We're going to set some aside for a rainy day or some financial goals, and some of it you can spend. And so by the time they're 18, 20, maybe 22, getting out of college, you want to start just right away. And getting professional help is maybe a little harder when you're 22 and you've got $10,000 in the bank, right? I mean, a lot of financial advisors have minimums, and some of those can be kind of high. So some of that learning has to happen on an individual basis. You got to take responsibility. Just start learning the basics. I like the 10-10-80 plan for people getting out of college. Invest 10 into retirement long term, tithe 10, spend the other 80. That's ultra simplified, but it's a great starting point. But if someone doesn't start early, they miss the magic of compounding of money. And so a lot of times, especially when you're coming out of high school or college, boy, there's a lot of things to get. You may have some debt to pay off. You need a vehicle. You need that first apartment, that first house. It's difficult, but if you never get in the habit of savings and you're 40 or 45 years old, and then you're like, okay, well, now I better start, you've just missed so much compounding. And so, yeah, the sooner the better. And as you get to different thresholds, you can go and get different levels of professional advice, and you can work up the chain in that realm too.
I think it's interesting this current administration are trying to encourage individuals to save. I have 3 daughters, and all of them are planning on they're all married and have wonderful young men, and they were kind of laughing and talking about having their first child, and they said, well, we have to have it before 2028 so we can get that $5,000. And I love it. I'm like, okay, yeah, for sure. And so I love that that starting straight away and taking advantage of that compound interest. It is never too late to start, but the earlier the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Craig, unfortunately, our time with you is coming to a close. Listening friends, we do have another segment where Cathy and I will hit the highlights of this interview with Craig Larson. But Craig, if our listening friends would like to talk to you personally, how can they reach out and find you?
They can find me at craiglarson.com, CraigLarson.com, or larsonadvisors.com. And I would be glad to chat with anybody that wants to check in.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Craig. As always, we so enjoy you. Larson Financial Advisors have been a sponsor of LoveTalk this year, and we so appreciate you and all that you do to be a fiduciary for people and with God leading your way. Thank you, Craig. Listening friends, we'll be back to LoveTalk Network with Cathy and Kerri right after this. Hello, friends, and welcome back to LoveTalk Network. Coach Kerri Brinkoeter here in studio with Cathy Endebrock. We are without our amazing co-host, Marlene McMichael, today. We are missing her. Just keep her in your prayers. She's always with us in spirit. She's had some family things to take care of, and we look forward to having her back with us very, very soon. Listening friends, we want to remind you that you can find us on all the places, Instagram, Facebook, you can find us at Love Talk Network. On podcast, same thing, Love Talk Network. Remember, Love Talk is all one word. Just smash it all together, Love Talk and Network, and you will find us there. Our podcast, you can very easily share. We'd love for you to go into YouTube and our podcast and like and subscribe. It's very easy. It's free. All you do is press the button. That just gets our great news out to other people. And the more that you share our programs with your friends, the more we can bring the love and saving grace of Jesus to more people all across this nation and the globe. And again, you can always find us at the Bridge Austin on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. And you can live stream there at thebridgeaustin.com as well. And Cathy, our sponsor for today is Craig Larson Financial Advisors. And what a great interview we had with Craig. He's so wonderful, and we're so grateful that he has sponsored our program this whole year. I just can't think of a better person, because he really is a fiduciary. He loves the Lord, and he recognizes that everything that he has been given to him by the Lord. And Cathy, one of my favorite parts of our interview with Craig today was how he subscribes to the 10-10-80 theory, right? 10% of what we make should be invested for the future. Sock it away. 10% of what we make, we give immediately our first and our best tithing to our local church, or to a place that is furthering the ministry and the love of Jesus Christ, right?
Mhm.
And then 80% we spend. We spend it on bills, we spend it on clothes, we spend it on necessities, we spend it on wants. So I know that sounds like a lot, like 80%. We spend 80%. If you can sock away more for the future, I recommend it. And some of you are like, I don't have 10%. I don't have that. You know what? God tells us that when we are good stewards of our money, he blesses that. I'm not subscribing here to, some kind of, what's it called, Cathy?
Prosperity gospel. Yeah.
Prosperity gospel. I'm not subscribing to that. But what I'm saying is God is faithful. God is faithful, and he will bless our efforts.
I think that's so true. When we are living in a place where God is first, that we are leaning on him, that we are looking towards him, that we are trusting him to be the author and the perfecter, that we know it is not by our might, not by his strength, but by his spirit. And we are just trusting that and pressing into that. And we can just say, there is something freeing about letting go, giving 10%. And you look at your rent, and your rent is, or your mortgage, say it's $1,000, and you have $1,000 in the bank, and you go, okay, I am going to give 10% of this away. I'm going to give it to my church. I'm going to give it to a really worthwhile faith-based 501c3. Okay, I'm going to trust God. All right, God, I'm going to trust you in this. There is something freeing that happens about that. And, I definitely grew up in a place where our family lived paycheck to paycheck. It was all hands on deck, just to even get $10 in your hand to go down to the apartment local washer and dryer and get to wash your clothes. That was an amazing thing. So I definitely understand that sometimes we have very little. And I would just encourage you that God says those who are faithful with little, who can be trusted with little, can be trusted with much. And it's an incredible blessing. And I would just hold them to that. And I would just go, okay, Lord, I'm going to trust you in this Christmas. I'm going to give before I get. I think that's a wonderful thing. And, as far as financials, I loved when he talked about his comprehensive plan.
Yes.
He said, look, having a good financial advisor and a good financial plan, it's not just about an investment portfolio, which is, that's honestly what I always thought. I'm like, oh, your investment portfolio, what is that? He says, look, it's also about your estate planning. It's about your insurance. And so when we're looking a long time down the road, whether we are approaching retirement or retirement in our minds is still just for old people, wherever we I'm not old. I refuse to believe it, you know? But so however far away we are from that plan, getting a comprehensive plan in place, it's never too late to start, but it's never too early to begin. And it's a great thing to do. And I love that he talked about that comprehensive plan and working through that and putting that together.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan also includes a risk management plan.
Yes.
So, how do we plan for the future? You know, we can't predict what the future holds in the markets, but we can have a plan for what happens if everything falls apart. And so, I really appreciate that about Craig, that he's looking at the whole picture. There are some things you can do here toward the end of the year to really leverage toward next year. And so, you know, these things are important. If this has piqued your interest and you're like, okay, I need to start getting a plan together, start doing that at the beginning of 2026. And find someone who can sit down with you, that is a fiduciary, that can sit down with you and can walk you through. Because like Craig said, some fiduciaries are going to, or some financial advisors are going to have like a minimum, and that's okay, but they will walk you through the steps you need to take to get financially healthy over the next year. And you know, Cathy, there's lots of podcasts out there. The Dave Ramsey Show, he's great. He helps people get out of debt. He gives very specific steps on how to do that. So having a plan, I've always said, well, I know this quote comes from somewhere, right? But failing to plan is planning to fail. Right.
Yeah.
And we've always heard that. And so plan, and stick to your plan.
Yeah. And friends, if you want to know what we would like at Love Talk for Christmas, here it is. Go to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. Go to our podcast, like our podcast and share it. Shoot us an email on let's talk at lovetalknetwork.com. Let us know what you want us to talk about over Christmas. We love to talk about and share what impacts you every day in life, us every day in life. We are basically sharing with you what we are walking through, and we'd love to hear what you're walking through so that we can do a program that meets you right where we are. Well, friends, it has been a wonderful time. It's been a great program. Coach Kerri, I love seeing your beautiful face every time we get to do this. Friends, we love you. We just pray for you as you are stepping out of this month of Thanksgiving and stepping into this season of joy for December, that God's joy would surround you, uphold you, bring a peace to your heart, and just quicken your spirit this Christmas season, that you would enjoy every bit of goodness it holds. And we love you, and we will be with you again next time on Love Talk Network.